Hello and welcome to On the Turf, hosted by four guys who have never been on the turf. My name is Arjun Ryan.
I'm Shubham Kanda.
I'm Kamil, I'm Danny.
And I'm Rohan Patel.
Guys, this is it. The final episode of On the Turf, the season series finale. Look, we don't want to get everyone going on the waterworks immediately.
No.
The present company included.
Yeah.
Kamil,
already there.
are you okay?
Just take a breather.
Oh, okay.
The episode just started.
Fuck. All right,
We just got here.
Look, we're gonna have a lot of reflections. We're gonna talk about, the show and everything like that. But I think just as we have with any other episode in this 86 episode run that we've been on, this is episode 86 of the show.
A lot of numbers.
3.5 years. We got to talk about the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles, it feels like a triumphant end to the show because the Philadelphia Eagles went into Caesars Superdome in New Orleans and beat the living hell out of the Kansas City Chiefs.
The bad guys are gone.
The bad guys have won. This feels like the end of Return of the Jedi, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we really just won here. Kamil, start with you. You are the biggest Chiefs hater on this podcast.
I am. That's true.
How did you feel watching this game?
I feel jubilant, triumphant, liberated. Those are words I used to describe this day. I woke up and it was as if a specter that had haunted me for the past 3 years was suddenly lifted. And I was free to go out and live my day with joy and exuberance and happiness. It's just great.
What a big
Wow,
words we
that's a
talked
lot of
about
words.
here.
Throwing all the
generational hate watch.
It had me feeling, serendipitous, dare I say.
Camille looked up the dictionary before this.
Yeah.
No, but it's awesome, man. I mean, like, we hate these guys, and we just watched them get absolutely trounced. They were embarrassed. Mahomes looked like a little bitch, dude. It was incredible. Like, it was great. How could you not be absolutely ecstatic at the results of this game? Jalen Hurts is great. I love Jalen Hurts. Good for him, man. Saquon deserved a ring. Cooper DeJean has elevated the Caucasian race to heights never before seen. I mean,
I think they've seen hires, but
yeah.
I think they've seen higher highs.
We did it, guys. We did it.
Okay, really embracing the last episode.
Josh Allen won MVP too.
Okay.
We didn't even talk about that.
Yeah.
But,
Rohan, you predicted the Eagles to win the Super Bowl. I think the past 2 years. This year you did not predict them, and they finally won.
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know if that's a validation anyway.
It's not.
I predicted the Eagles to make the Super Bowl. If that's something, I thought that they were the best team in the NFC very clearly. I did not think they were this good. We'll talk about the game more in detail, but I mean, I agree with Kamil. It's nice to see a new Super Bowl. It's nice to see a lot of these Eagles players win their first Super Bowl. As a casual. Not a casual fan, but as the average fan who is not a fan of either team, it was a bit of a boring game to watch, I have to say.
Disagree.
I don't know. I don't hate the Chiefs. I don't hate the Chiefs that much that I just want to see a blowout, Like I don't want a close game, which we didn't get, but I think it does speak to how good this Eagles team is. It'll be interesting to see where they go going forward. I think it'll be more interesting to see where this Chiefs team goes moving forward if they still have anything left in the tank for another run.
Tree, you predicted. You were talking to be fair, a broken clock is right twice a day.
We're all
Tree,
broken clocks.
Yeah, but Tree did predict for
right.
the past 3 years, or the last Eagles Super Bowl 2 years ago. He was like, we could see this Philly D line take over the game, just like the 2020 Super Bowl. Tree, anything remind you last night of the 2020 Super Bowl?
I gotta say, no. I mean, like, I just said that just in hope and just to hope that they'd win the game. But I no way did I expect how dominant this defensive line was going to be. We knew the Kansas O-line had holes here and there, but the fact that they were able to achieve so much pressure without blitzing a single time throughout the game, it's just insane. Obviously, I didn't really enjoy that much of the game. I mean, I was happy to see Jalen Carter get in Mahomes' face, see him run around like he did in 2020 all around the field. But happy for the Eagles. Happy for Jalen Hurts. He's probably one of the most nonchalant people I know. I'm just and yeah, I'm happy for the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Like, a lot of my friends, they go to Pitt, and they were telling me how everyone at Pitt just stormed Fourth Street and Fifth Street in celebration for the Philadelphia Eagles. Just it felt like Philly in Pittsburgh. So super happy for the Eagles. I don't know where the Chiefs are going to go from here, but yeah. boring
Yeah,
game, but
I'm not.
Sorry, what's up with Philadelphians also? Why do you like
Well,
insist on
I
trashing your city after you win a Super Bowl?
that's one point. I do want to take a little. I want to take a little issue. I actually disagree with that take, Shree. Why is Pittsburgh celebrating Philadelphia? We have
no,
a
it's
team.
like no, I'm like I think
It's
there's a lot of
Philadelphians in
There's a lot of Philly students in Pittsburgh that go to Pitt.
They should
So
go back to Philly and celebrate. I don't need Forbes Avenue.
Oh, go back to where they. Are you saying they should go back to where they came from, Arjun?
They should go back within the state to where they came from.
No, but
Pittsburgh has its own team. We got one here. We got seven of
I
them.
do want to touch on a point about how it felt so good to watch this Eagles team win. They just deserved it, man. Like this was truly an incredible team, top to bottom. You could tell around the middle of the year that they were just so dominant, and it almost feel destined in a way that they were gonna get to this point, barring some Chiefs Devils magic miracle. But that didn't come. They just came out. They played better. They were just incredible, and frankly, just in astounding run. I mean, they dominated pretty much every game. The only time I was ever really in doubt was when Stafford was driving a bit at the end, and even then they had it. So just a great team, man.
Yeah, I think I have to issue some apologies to a lot of people on this Eagles team. I've been down.
Namely who?
Actually, there's two of them. I think both Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni
Nick Sirianni.
deserve my apologies. I've been on this team for the past 2 years, basically, ever since they lost in the Super Bowl. I was feeling very strongly that Nick Sirianni was going to get fired this year.
Yeah, you did.
I was feeling very strongly that the Eagles were going to get eliminated at some point in this playoffs.
Yeah, me too.
And I was very wrong about basically everyone on this team. I think this once again proves that trenches win in the playoffs. And I don't want to take a credit away from Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts. Nick Sirianni obviously might be a top 5 coach in the league at this point.
He is.
Might.
Jalen Hurts.
Super Bowl. I mean, not many other coaches can say that.
And he's
Sure.
the second winningest coach of all time at this point, too.
Jalen Hurts might be a top 5 quarterback at this point. I think. I mean, you know, that 5 spot. I mean, honestly, I think
the fifth spot is his. Yeah.
I think the 5th spot is his. You know, he plays the biggest in the biggest moments. Which you know, you could say Lamar doesn't do that, and we anoint Lamar as a top 3, top 4
poise.
Yeah, he's very poised, but I think the real MVP for the Eagles is Howie Roseman. The guy who has built this roster, winning a Super Bowl with two different quarterbacks in one season, by the way, with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz, and then winning and a different head coach, and then taking a different head coach and a different quarterback and a completely different roster, basically outside of Brandon Graham and Lane Johnson, and winning yet another Super Bowl, getting to another Super Bowl appearance 2 years ago. I mean, you got to put this guy up as one of the best general managers, maybe of all time at this point. He's done an extraordinary job building this team. I mean, just think about how many early round picks this team hits on. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
And I'm sure N'Kobe Dean.
It's trading a first for AJ Brown too.
Trading a first for AJ Brown. I mean, they're making the obvious moves.
Yeah.
Picking up Saquon. They're making obvious moves that people are talking about, but they're hitting on every single one of them. And this really shows you, we always talk about like, oh, you can get Brock Purdy in the 7th round. You got to hit on those first round picks. Yeah. This is what happens when you hit on the first round picks.
I mean, it's also a difference. I think it's both. I mean, you've seen they hit on first round picks, but they also find value elsewhere, which is what makes this roster, I think, true, like really impeccable. Finding Zach Bond, picking up in free agency, turning him into an all pro. It's finding guys like Cam Jurgens.
Yeah.
You lose one elite all pro, perennial all pro in Jason Kelce. You find another elite center to replace him. It's doing those little things too that I think really enhances Howie Roseman from a good GM that can hit on your first round picks to a great GM that can find talent everywhere. And when you look at it in hindsight, right? When you look at this game in hindsight, you're like, how did you ever think the Eagles are going to lose? Right? You look at it in hindsight, you're like, this team is top to bottom perfect.
Yeah.
They have everything that you need. The quarterback was a question mark at some points, but we've seen worse quarterbacks win a Super Bowl before. It's dumb to say, but in hindsight, you're like, wow, how did we all think that they were going to lose?
But I think we all acknowledge that the Eagles have the better.
I think
we should win the game. It was just so hard to bet against Mahomes and Reed.
That's true.
And I think you got to give credit. Again, I do want to shout out Nick Sirianni again, because this is a team that lost both its coordinators after the Super Bowl run 2 years ago.
They lost one.
They lost both their coordinators last year as well.
For the wrong reasons. But
I mean, but you see all these organizations sticking by guys. You see the Chiefs sticking by Matt Nagy. You see Sean McDermott, sticking by. Well, I guess he wasn't sticking. Not really.
Pretty good turnover.
But or Mike Tomlin, for the best example, sticking by Matt Canada and things like that, and Arthur Smith. This Eagles organization as a whole is super agile. Getting rid of Carson Wentz, bringing in Jalen Hurts as a second round pick when Carson Wentz seemed to be the future. I mean, you have to get credit from the ownership down that this team knows that when it has to change, it changes and it pays off for
And
it.
credit to Nick Sirianni. Doug Peterson's biggest issue when he was with the Eagles, he just wouldn't get rid of his guys.
Press Taylor.
Press
Yeah.
Taylor
Yeah.
kept him forever. Nick Sirianni, look at him. He switches guys. He makes the obvious hires. Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, two guys that have been around the league but clearly no ball. Bring them in, let them coach this talented roster, and just go win a ring. It's simple. They make the obvious choices, and it always works out. It's a
But
great team.
Tree.
No, I think for the Chiefs, I mean, to speak on the Chiefs, I think
Yeah.
this game showed that you don't have to be great, in every aspect of the game, but you can't be bad in one. And that offensive line just got completely exposed. And like I think we were all talking about it earlier, like how were the Eagles going to win? Like they could win, but it was all about Patrick Mahomes, and we couldn't bet against him. But if you have an absolutely stacked defense, which what the Eagles had, going into it. Yeah, I don't know how much the O line could hold up, how much an alien at the quarterback could honestly go from. We were talking about how we could take Patrick Mahomes from perfect to spectacular, but that defensive line made him so much worse than spectacular. I mean, I think this game had people questioning if Mahomes could honestly be the GOAT if he's on the trajectory, because he's had 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Like that's what this Eagles team has done. Like basically transformed. I feel like the trajectory of how we're going to see the Chiefs from now on because of how badly Mahomes in this offense played, but that's for another.
Yeah, no, and let's talk about it. I mean, we talked a lot about the Eagles. Let's talk about the Chiefs side of this. All of us picked the Chiefs going into this game. All of us were wrong. We all predicted a close. And and exactly. And maybe us picking the Chiefs is what we need to do these past
Yeah,
years.
we needed to.
Yeah, we all picked them.
And maybe that also shows why we need to end the show because none of us got the Super Bowl right. We're completely washed.
Were we ever in our primes?
Shree picked Bengals Rams. That's the feather in our cap at this point. But
wait, let me say it first. Mahomes was fucking trash.
Yeah,
he sucked. He
was
did
awful.
Josh Allen would have made plays. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh my god.
No, but I mean, Mahomes was trash.
It was just unnecessary.
I mean, this is one of the worst Super Bowl performances by a quarterback, I think, in recent memory. Not even in recent memory, in all memory, probably. I mean, Mahomes legitimately, he was down 34-0 at one point. He had 34 yards passing. He had more yards throwing to Cooper DeJean than he had to his own receivers. Sub 50% completion percentage. Picks in the red zone. A pick six and then a pick on the goal line. We'll talk about the whole legacy part of this, but what do we see for this Chiefs team going forward? I mean, this clearly exposed some, if you can get 4 players on the line who can rush Mahomes and rush his processing. This is what we saw in the Bucs game, and this to a worse effect with worse weapons. What do we think about the Chiefs going forward, especially with perhaps the looming retirement of Travis Kelce as well?
I don't know. I don't think this dynasty is over. I think Mahomes has another ring in him. I just think that, like you talked about, Howie Rose being a great GM. I think God, who's the Chiefs GM?
Brett Veach.
Veach. Brett Veach, Andy Reid. This is a good front office that the Chiefs have too. I think you're gonna find that this is an adaptable Chiefs team that is going to have a new outlook on how they build this team up. For the past 2 years, this offense was built on, okay, we lost Tyreek Hill. Let's figure out how to revamp this game to get it a sort of a dink and dunk offense, drive the ball down the field, rely on your run game. And really just rely on the greatness of Patrick Mahomes and build up your defense to support that. You look at this game and you go down to a deficit and you realize you don't have someone who can push the ball down the field. You don't have the offensive line to help Mahomes push the ball down the field. I think you sort of lost that magic that you originally had that won you that first Super Bowl all the way back in 2019. All that to say, I think that you're going to see this Chiefs front office take a different vision. I think they're going to invest a lot more heavily in their offense, invest in their line, invest in high-end true receiver talent, and not washed-up scraps like DeAndre Hopkins or relying on 35-year-old Travis Kelce. I think you're going to look to see a much more high-powered offense that can support the Mahomes of old.
Yeah, let me add to that, Rohan. I don't think the primary issue with the Chiefs in this game was the O-line. Obviously, we saw Mahomes get battered and get tossed around. But when you look at the facts after the game, I think he had 3.2 seconds average time to throw the ball, which is pretty high. A lot of this pressure is on Mahomes holding the ball for too long. And when you look at the PFF grades as well, Sweat, Jalen Carter, they're not really up there. It's the guys in the secondary that did an incredible job of holding up, not letting anybody get open. And I think the big issue with this Chiefs offense, you look at the O-line, it was pretty good throughout the year. Middle of the pack to higher end, right?
Especially when they moved Tooney back out the left
Yeah,
tackle.
they
Yeah.
have a lot of studs out there, a lot of big guys. They have some issues to tackle, sure, but it shouldn't be enough to completely sink them in a game like this. The biggest issue is you just have no guy. We were talking about it.
Yeah.
We were talking about it last week, when we were looking at the matchups before the game. But who do they go to? I mean, Xavier Worthy had a big game. It was all in garbage time. And nobody else was getting open. D Hop was dropping balls. Travis Kelsey just looked completely and totally
Yeah,
washed.
he's
I mean, they were
washed. He's
toying with
washed.
him.
I thought he
He was
wasn't
out. He
washed.
was out there jogging, dude. Like we were talking about, oh, Kelsey's gonna have a big game. He didn't do anything. He's terrible. There's nobody really left on that roster right now that can really get open. Maybe Xavier Worthy could develop, but they just don't have a guy. And similar issue with the Bills last week against the Chiefs. It shows itself in games like this when you're facing a talented defense, a talented secondary. As good as the quarterback is, if your guy just isn't going to get open, he's going to sit back there. He's going to take a lot of time, try to make something happen. And against a good defensive front like the Eagles, they're just going to get to him and nothing's going to work.
I do think there's some light at the end of the tunnel here on the receiver situation, though. I mean, you have Rashee Rice; he'll come back next
Hmm.
year.
Yeah.
He's going to be on out for a 7 to 8 week suspension. But I mean, before the injury this year, he looked legitimately great. I mean, he
Yeah.
was Mahomes' number one target. You could say he's going to come in to fill this kind of Kelsey
Hmm.
safety blanket role. I do think, I see this game a little bit differently. I think the offensive line did a better job than they did in the 2020 Super Bowl. I mean, the 2020 Super Bowl, the real problem was they just didn't have a left tackle. I mean, they were on their like fourth left tackle. They were shopping for free agents near the AFC Championship, and that's what got them in that situation. This time they had their starters playing. I think Mahomes got himself into a lot of sacks. You could see him
Hmm.
stepping up in the pocket, rushing his
Yep.
process.
He
I
was
don't.
he
I
was
don't think
not
it's
good.
necessarily his fault. I think
No,
the issue was a lot with
I actually
getting
think.
separation and
I mean, I don't know.
he was not good in the pocket. His mobility was terrible.
I think this is honestly, I think this is an issue on Mahomes, but also on the play calling in general. I think the lack of a run game
Hmm.
really reared its head in that
yeah,
game.
yeah.
I mean, they could not run the ball at all in the first half, and then when you're down 24 to nothing going into halftime, there's not much you can do running the ball, and you have a couple talented backs in Pacheco, and Kareem Hunt was pretty good this season. I think this is an issue on Andy. I think Andy Reid should take the blame for this game. I think Mahomes should take the blame for this
Hmm.
game. I think in this game, you really saw, we talk about how perfect the Chiefs offense can be, even when things are imperfect
Hmm.
around them. And this time we saw both Andy Reid and Mahomes, the guys we expect to be perfect, have a very imperfect day. And I think that's where you get to 34 to nothing.
Let me ask, since this is the last episode for a while for us, do we think Mahomes, he's 30, right? Right now? We're
Yeah.
29, he's gonna be 30. Do we think he's gonna age in the back half of his career like Brady? Can he have the longevity? He's injured that ankle a couple times now. His play has kind of regressed the last 2 years, at least in the regular season. What do we think?
I
Mahomes
I
long term.
No.
I'm gonna say no. I think this game, and I guess we can pivot to that now.
Hmm.
This game solidified Brady as one of one. He is the GOAT, untouchable. I mean, the fact that
Hmm.
the one time Brady got blown out in the Super Bowl, he won the game.
Yeah.
Come on, like he was down 28 to 3 and he won that game. We've seen Mahomes get blown out twice in the Super Bowl at this point, and Mahomes, his big X factor has been his legs, not necessarily maybe sometimes running out of the pocket, but
Hmm.
extending plays. If he get, I mean, Brady was you talked about Mahomes as a supercomputer. I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore.
Against the Bills, he is.
I guess. I mean, maybe that's more of a problem on the Bills.
Yeah.
But I think Brady is one of one. I think he's untouchable at this point, and I don't think Mahomes is going to age in the same way. True.
Yeah, I don't know where they go from here either. I think they're gonna have to revamp their roster. I don't want to count him out though. I mean, he's probably the most talented quarterback right now in the NFL. He's what, 3 times Super Bowl MVP. He's been the MVP a couple of times too, and he's consistently beaten all of these AFC quarterbacks that we crown as like the top 4 in the league. So I don't know if like we're gonna count him. I don't think we need to count him out or anything, but um, I definitely don't see him catching up to Tom Brady. I was watching a Stephen A. Smith the other day. He's like, I think it's time we put Joe Montana back in this conversation because he won the Super Bowl 4 times. He had a hell of a career. Mahomes has like an 80 passer rating in the Super Bowl, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Not really a lot to show for it when you're supposed to be considered like the greatest player right now in the NFL. So I think honestly, for me, like I don't think he's even caught up to Montana yet. Like because he's won 4. I mean, three Super Bowl wins, 3 Super Bowl MVPs is great, but
Joe
What's
Montana
Yeah.
playing against plumbers, like low
What?
key.
The
I,
ninth?
I think you still put Montana too, but that's
Montana
just
never threw a pick in the Super
Dude,
Bowl.
give Joe his
Really?
respect.
Yeah.
Oh.
Joe Montana was incredible. What are you doing?
Yeah.
No, he is. But I would still give the edge to Mahomes. I think, especially at the end of his career, I firmly believe Mahomes wins another ring. Uh,
yeah. I mean, if he wins another ring, then I'll put him at 2. I just
I'll put
don't
him at
see him
two
like
for
You
catching
never
a
know.
I
break.
think he's very much in the Peyton Manning tier right
Guys,
now.
guys, Brady had a 10-year span in his career where he never won a ring.
That's true.
Who's to say that can't happen to Mahomes as maybe
Yeah.
Reed retires?
I mean,
and
10
Russ
years from
falls
now,
off?
I can't expect Andy Reid's going to be coaching.
Yeah.
no. But I think, like I said, I think this Chiefs offense will get revamped the way it should be. But regardless, I agree. I mean, Brady is not going to be caught by Mahomes. I mean, you're talking about Brady's longevity. Brady played till 45, and
Mhm.
despite having no mobility, just because of the way that he could see the field, Mahomes does not have that capability.
Mhm.
And that's not a bad thing. No one's going to have that capability,
Yeah.
I think, ever in an NFL quarterback. But he's not going to have that longevity. But he will be playing, I think, for another good 8 years at least.
Yeah, let me narrative it. You think he'll get to like 38, 39 playing elite?
No,
Elite? I think, yeah. Oh, I think he'll be a top 5 quarterback for about the next 10 years.
10 years. Wow. I think by 38, he's where Brady is at 45.
Yeah, maybe. I could see that.
I think he wins his last ring. If he wins, like, he, the last age he could win a ring is maybe like 35, 36. And then he'll play until he's like 39, 40. But those last years, you're going to be able to tell he's tapering off.
Actually, I hope I'm not stealing a rapid fire question from Shree that we're going to hear later, but I'm curious to know from each one of you, how many more rings do you think Mahomes will win? Shree, we
I
can
think
start.
I think he'll win 2 more.
2 more. So you'll get to 5.
I think he'll get to 5. I think it's hard. Like there's a lot of dynasties that are being built in the NFL. The NFC is looking stronger, like the Eagles, the Lions. I mean, and the AFC is only getting better as well. I think a lot of these quarterbacks, a lot of these fan bases, the media is just frustrated for the Chiefs. I think that plays like a big role as well. I mean, it didn't play a big role for the Patriots, but I mean, I think it's just like regression is bound for the Chiefs. So I think I'll give him 2 more. I don't think he's getting any more than that though.
I think it's just one. I think next year's probably not going to be his year. I think you're going to see again a shift in what this Chiefs offense does. It's going to take a drastic shift in this Chiefs team to realize that they need to go back to being innovative and pushing the ball down the field and making the best use of Patrick Mahomes' talent, which isn't a dink and dunk offense. It's an offense that pushes the balls down the field, that pushes the ball down the field. It'll take a few years. So I think it'll take 2, 3 years. He'll win one more ring,
But I
and
mean,
that'll be
the
it.
thing is with that is Mahomes has just regressed pushing the ball down the field. Like
I don't think he has. I
he
think
has though. If you look at the numbers and his mechanics throwing the ball.
I
down
mean,
the
you
field.
you lost Tyreek Hill, like that does that. Losing Tyreek
Josh
Hill
Allen
does
lost
that to
Stephon
you.
Diggs.
No, but if you isolate his play, like he's just been throwing it worse. And there is a question of whether or not it's to deal with his ankles and the general fatigue of the last few years. I just think it's something to monitor at the very least.
Camille?
Like I want to say 0, but probably 1. He's just like he's very good, and they're probably going to field an elite team around him at some point in these next 8 years, and he'll be able to get it done at least one more time. But let's hope not.
I'm going to say 1 as well. I think he gets to 4. I think he gets to Montana's number. I think most likely what's going to happen is he's going to get one in the next 3 years at some point and then go ringless for the rest of his career. Because I really think once he loses Andy Reid, I think this partnership dissolves. Andy Reid does not grow on trees. I don't think he's going to get another incredible coach to guide him to it. I mean, how many? I mean, Brady won one without Belichick, but that was around an extremely stacked roster, and that was Tom Brady. You know,
Oh, and you had Bruce Arians. Don't.
yeah, Bruce
Yeah,
Arians
yeah.
too.
Don't. Let's not.
But what I'm saying is, I just think I don't know if Mahomes can have the same effect with another coach. They'll be able to win without him. Um, and I guess we can flip back to the Eagles in terms of what this means for their legacies. I mean, we briefly alluded to this earlier, but what does this mean for Jalen Hurts? I mean, Jalen Hurts now, I believe, I mean, Stafford, we're thinking he's going to stay with the Rams. Um, does this make him the best quarterback in the NFC at this point? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, 2 Super Bowl trips, he's won a ring. I think he's probably the most accomplished Eagles quarterback. I don't
Ever,
think
yeah, probably.
ever, and I think the same with Sirianni as well as the head coach. I mean, they've both been to the Super Bowl twice. They've won once. Eagles haven't done that. I guess like Doug Peterson back in like what 2017. But I mean, it puts Jalen Hurts in a new conversation. It's actually crazy to think about how he's more accomplished than Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and like I know he hasn't won the MVPs, but also Lamar Jackson. Like none of the. I mean, I know like Mahomes is like in the AFC, but I mean, it's just crazy to think about. Like we were all talking about this the other week. Like why are we evaluating Jalen Hurts like differently because like oh he's not in the AFC or whatever. But I mean, going to the Super Bowl is hard enough. And the two games that mattered most, the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl, he played fantastic. Like, yeah, he had some rough games in the regular season, in the early playoffs against the Rams and the Packers, but when it actually mattered most, he stepped up, and that's what you need from a quarterback. So, I think I need to apologize to Jalen Hurts as well. Like, he really stepped up when it mattered most. So that's all I'm going to say on Jalen.
Yeah, you go
Sorry,
first.
no, go on, get your. Because I was gonna ask a question.
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna say, I mean, I'm glad you guys are apologizing to Jalen Hurts because I've been a Jalen Hurts
Yeah,
support
he
from the
has
start.
been. Yeah.
But I do think I feel weird taking this side. I feel like you guys are over apologizing a little bit. I don't think, yeah, I don't think Jalen Hurts is a top five quarterback. I don't think Jalen Hurts is the best
Who'd
quarterback
you
in the
have fifth?
NFC. I would still put Jaden Daniels as fifth.
Nah, come on.
Why? I mean, he just beat Jaden Daniels.
But okay, but look, and you watch the game, and I think you see that a lot of these are again the defense creating three turnovers in the first, or not, I don't know if it's the first half, but three turnovers throughout the game. You saw that again in the Super Bowl with the defense coming up with two key interceptions.
But
in
you can make the
first
same
half.
argument for Jaden Daniels against the Lions. I mean, the defense had a couple pick sixes here and there.
Listen, Jane Daniels is great, but Jalen Hurts has the body of work now.
Yeah.
Two incredible.
Wait, this is crazy because usually I make the body of work argument, but
I mean, the body of work is hard to deny at this point.
He's had two incredible Super Bowl performances now, Super Bowl MVP.
I'm just saying, I think when you look at what Jalen Hurts has done throughout the regular season, especially this year, I think that it was one of a solid quarterback.
42 touchdowns, 8 picks. That's incredible.
And he lost one game basically, or two games.
I'm just saying, a lot of it. I mean, I don't think any of you guys were talking about Jalen Hurts as a top five quarterback based on regular season play. I think that maybe it is early to call Jaden Daniels top five, but I think my point is that there's guys like Jaden Daniels that definitely have a higher trajectory than Jalen Hurts. I think this is probably the best Jalen Hurts you'll get to see. I don't know if there's anything else past this.
I mean, I think at this point, Jalen Hurts is really this. I mean, I'm not going to take. I think a lot of people made this comparison, but he's a lot like Russell Wilson in those Legion of Boom years. I mean, he's very opportunistic. He makes a couple big plays every game. Great deep ball, can run the ball. I mean, he's very much, I think, the Russell Wilson of this generation, both in play style and in body of work.
Russell Wilson felt better. Like, didn't Russell Wilson feel a bit better in terms of his creation ability, his ability to like make plays on the run?
I don't know. Jalen just showed that yesterday.
No, I mean maybe he's not an improviser in the same way, but he makes those big plays.
He makes those big plays. I think a lot of his stuff is based on his athleticism, which doesn't go to fault his ability. But he's a guy who I think is a lot more athletic, plays off his athleticism. A lot of the good plays he made, I think, were deep balls rather than maybe processing the field, so to speak.
But that's the exact argument we used to make for Russell Wilson being like a top five quarterback.
I guess I don't know. Yeah. I think Jalen Hurts is great. I don't know. Maybe I'm overwhelmed by all this.
This is weird
right now. And I'm like trying to backtrack what I'm saying.
What I do want to say is the Eagles still have an incredible roster, and I'd still take Burrow, Josh Allen, maybe Lamar over him because I just think if you put either of those quarterbacks on this team, it's probably the same result. And I'd be interested to see how Jalen Hurts doing like the Bills, for example. I don't think it would be the same result. I think the Bills would be worse. So I don't think he's necessarily a transcendent talent that can completely dominate a game, but he's absolutely an elite quarterback at this point, and he can go out there and play a game essentially to perfection. I don't know how he'd be with the worst team around him, but that's a pointless question at this point because all we really have is what we get, and what we've seen from Jalen Hurts and what that has been is pretty good.
Yeah.
I do have one question for you guys, like before we move on. I feel like we've all had this discussion where, like to win the Super Bowl, we need an alien at quarterback, like someone that's just like out of this world, top 5, top 7 in the NFL. And there are times where like we have people like Brock Purdy, we have people like Jalen Hurts that like weren't necessarily like an alien at quarterback, but the roster around them, like the trenches, the secondary was just incredible. So like going forward, do you see the NFL like prioritizing like a generational quarterback talent, or really like loading up the trenches, loading up the roster, building around that quarterback? Because I feel like we have this conversation every time, like, and it switches every time based on like every year.
I think there's such a risk proposition with both. I think the thing is that the chance of getting a generational talent like a Mahomes who can just take your roster regardless of its strength and turn it into a Super Bowl winner, is so infinitesimally small at this point that you have to try. But at the same, on the other hand, building a roster like the Eagles, hitting on this many first and second round picks and at free agent acquisitions to build a roster of this size is also that infinitesimally small. Like you're balancing those two propositions. Are you making all these smaller risk propositions with offensive linemen and running backs and defensive linemen and what have you, or are you going all in to get this quarterback? You look at a roster like the Rams 3 years ago, they had that roster set. They had people like Aaron Donald and Cooper Kupp already in the building, and you bring in Matthew Stafford, a guy who they knew could operate within the system, and you win a Super Bowl. Same thing with Brady, the couple of years before it. The thing is, I think you have to. I think a lot of times we see GMs trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with a lot of these quarterbacks, bring them into a system, bring them into a team that they're not comfortable with. And that's exactly what Jalen Hurts is excelling at. He's the exact guy that the Eagles need him to be. He does exactly what they need him to be. Opens up the run game. He opens up the deep passing game with the play action with the guys they have. So I guess that doesn't really answer your question, Sri, but I do think that you're going to see more of the latter towards the Eagle style construction because I think people are starting to realize you're not going to hit on Mahomes every single day, even if you get Jaden Daniels, even if you get a CJ Stroud. Neither one of those guys are sniffing the Super Bowl right now, and Jalen Hurts is there instead.
I think it's really an AFC NFC type split. You look at the AFC, you have all these generational quarterbacks that they're investing resources into. The NFC, on the other hand, has a dearth of talent in that regard. I mean, Jalen Hurts, we're arguing, is the best that they have to offer, and I don't think you'd really put Jalen Hurts above any of the top AFC quarterbacks. So that just shows how much more these NFC teams are focusing on building good, complete rosters around these guys. And it was just, to summarize this point quite neatly, I feel it was really exposed yesterday. The Eagles were just a better team top to bottom. They exposed the Chiefs' weaknesses and flaws, and the greatness of Patrick Mahomes never became a factor just because of how much better they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think GMs are going to go towards sort of what you're saying, Arjun. I think what it really comes down to though is finding finding this like sweet spot Goldilocks quarterback that is good enough to get you in these situations, but not good enough to tank your ability to build the rest of the roster. You look at teams like the Cowboys, who have dedicated $60 million a year to Dak Prescott, another good chunk of money to CeeDee Lamb, and now you're like, how do I build the rest of this roster? I can't even pay Micah Parsons, my top defensive player. You look at, I mean, who are the other top paid quarterbacks in the league right now? You're like Trevor Lawrence,
Tua, Jordan Love.
A lot of similar issues where I mean, I guess maybe not Jordan Love yet. We'll see if that. I mean, I would say Jordan Love. You can't get good at wide receiver one right now. Um, I think you're in a situation where you need to find that sweet spot quarterback that's good, but it isn't going to command so much capital that you can't build the rest of the team the way you want to. You saw that. I mean, you look at the Niners. I think they're the perfect example of this, where they did it with Jimmy G, they did it with Brock Purdy. Two teams that win Super Bowls if it's not for Patrick Mahomes. And I think other teams are going to see that the Eagles did it just a little bit better with a little bit better of a quarterback, and that's probably enough to get you over the hump.
Yeah, I think kind of to put a bow on this, I think you're gonna see. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see the NFC next year because you have so many of these loaded rosters, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure, in our Super Bowl picks. But you have the Niners who are probably going to come back with a lot of these injuries. You have the Lions coming back. You have the Vikings coming back. You have obviously this Eagles team coming back. You could even make the Commanders. With some free agent and draft acquisitions. You're seeing a ton of loaded rosters in the NFC. And then you're seeing these quarterbacks trying to fight it out in the AFC. I wonder if we're going to start seeing the NFC win out in these Super Bowls against these AFC quarterbacks going. Yeah, because we saw, it's really just been Mahomes and Brady being the AFC. And then when Brady went to the NFC, he started winning. Like I wonder if this type of roster construction is going to bring a lot more Super Bowls to the NFC. But Tree, I'm going to pass it out to you for the final time this season, possibly forever.
Fuck.
Shree's rapid fire questions. Please take it away.
All right. All right. I just need a second, actually. Let me pull that up.
Take as many seconds as you'd like, please.
Trying to extend this episode for as long as possible.
Savor this final moment.
All right. Okay, I'm ready. It's gonna be like 5 questions, okay? Okay. Out of the Titans, Browns, Giants, and Patriots, top 4 draft picks for this year, who's gonna have the fastest and best rebuild?
I'll go quickly. It's gonna be the Patriots. Love Drake May, love the Vrabel head coaching pick. They got the quarterback, they got the coach. We see that wins. I think that's going to win here. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots make a wild card run next year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to say Patriots. I think having a rookie quarterback is the best to get a rebuild going. I'm a surefire rookie quarterback. I'll say Patriots, but sneaky pick. I think the Titans, if they make the right decision in this draft
Which
and
is
don't take a
uh,
quarterback, and they build this roster out the way that they should and wait for quarterback next year, I think they can have the best long-term success.
I'll go against the grain here. I do think the Patriots are going to be pretty good pretty soon, but I'll take the Browns. I think the Browns are going to hit on the quarterback. We've seen Stefanski and that regime put together good teams,
That's true,
have winning
actually, yeah.
seasons, multiple coach of the years. I think they do a good job rebuilding this roster. I think they hit on quarterback, and I think they'll be back in contention pretty soon.
Trey.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna
Wait,
go with
wait.
the
What's
Browns.
your answer?
The Browns. I just think they have a lot of young talent in the defense, and I think that's all they need. All right, number two, the old heads, Aaron Rodgers, Matt Stafford. Is that generation officially done, or do you think anyone from the generation is going to keep going?
Done as in retired?
Not retired, like the level of quarterback play. Like, are they going to keep it going, or has it come to an end? Has that generation
I'm
finally
going to
come
call
to an end?
time of death on this.
I think okay. I think Rodgers is done. I think Stafford still has some gas left in the tank. Honestly, I think Stafford in that last drive, he was pretty good in the Rams Eagles game. Like he gave them a chance to win. If the Rams bring him back on this roster, maybe they won't make a Super Bowl, but I think they can make a similar run. I think he's still got some gas left in the tank.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Arjun. I think they'll definitely be competitive next year, especially if the roster gets better. They took a step forward this year after, rebuilding post that Super Bowl. But that might have been the last hurrah for Matt that game. That might have been the peak that we see from him from here on out. Because he kind of struggled throughout the season a little. Like you could tell things were a little harder for him. That arm wasn't as good as it used to be, and I don't see it getting better. Just as I didn't see it getting better with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, same thing. But I gotta say, Aaron Rodgers just not bringing him back. Sorry, another question. Not to interrupt you, but is Aaron Rodgers done? Like, is he retired?
I think he's going to retire. I mean, he was close to retiring before he joined the Jets in the first place. I just the only thing that keeps me without full confidence in saying that is just there's a lot of quarterback needy teams right now, and whatever you guys may say about Aaron Rodgers, he would be an upgrade over some of the potential options starting this year. I think maybe.
Yeah,
That's I agree with that. I agree with that. All right, next question.
Sorry, sure. What was your take on Matt Stafford? We didn't get there.
I think he's done. I think he's reached his peak. I mean, I think the Rams' offense is great. I think their roster is great. They're set up for the future. But I mean, I think he's just run out of juice. But because I just think you need to be more competitive, especially with loaded rosters in the NFC. Next question is: we talk about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen a lot, and it's been a huge debate on this podcast. One of the biggest moments ever. But who ends with more rings at the end of their career, Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen?
Why aren't we including Joe Burrow in this?
And Joe Burrow as well.
No, he doesn't have an MVP. He's not on the
He's the only one who's been to the Super Bowl.
But
out of those three.
He's not an
Wait,
MVP. He's not an MVP
What's-
quarterback.
all three.
That's
He's
a
not
crazy
an
take.
MVP.
Or actually, let's just
Answer the
expand
question.
it.
Answer the question, Arjun. Answer the question. Lamar or Josh?
Josh. It's gonna be Josh.
I'll expand the question. Not just Super Bowl, but who ends their career
With the greatest legacy.
with the greatest legacy? Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow.
I think it's going to be Josh.
Josh Allen.
I think it's going to be Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is going to be seen, if Mahomes is the Brady of this era, I think he's going to be seen as the Manning, and that proportion adjusted as well. I think he's going to be seen as someone who could have been, one of the greats in a different era if he wasn't in the same era as Mahomes. I think he's going to be remembered quite fondly. I think Lamar is going to be remembered as the greatest rushing quarterback of all time for sure. But I think Josh's legacy is going to be a little stronger.
I'll answer because I know where Camille's going here. I think it's going to be Lamar. First of all, with Josh Allen, I think it's just with the way this Bills roster is constructed, it's a struggle for him. It's a struggle for him to have to do everything for this team. And if he can't win a Super Bowl, even if he only gets one ring, I think you look at it and you're like, okay, he's got one ring, solid, and one MVP. I think if he ends his career with that, it's like, okay, he's a great quarterback, one of the best, sure. But if you look at Lamar, I think he's a great regular season quarterback. He's got at least one more MVP in the tank. A three-time MVP, I think, is something that I don't know how many people have actually done that. But that's
So you're
an
just
Rodgers
broadcasting.
Brady.
You're just forecasting things for Lamar. Why doesn't Josh have another MVP?
I just said Lamar or Josh will probably get a ring. Even
He
if
thinks the Lamar. I agree with that.
I think
Yeah.
Lamar.
Yeah.
I think year to year Lamar has a higher chance of getting an MVP because of the
He's
way
more
he
statistically
plays
great.
and
Yeah.
the way his statistics just work out. You can't deny that's not true, Kamil.
Because
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, it's 100% Josh Allen, and I don't think it's even going to be close. When Lamar's legs, start to run out, that arm is going to be exposed, and he's not going to be able to rely on that. Josh Allen has just been shattering record after record, and because he doesn't play for Baltimore and he doesn't get the fanfare in the media, people haven't realized it. He has the most touch.
What?
He has. I get he just got the MVP, but it should not have been that close. I'm sorry. And he has like the most touchdowns ever in his first 7 seasons, and nobody seems to care. He's incredible. He's destroying record after record. His arm and his size is going to keep him going for a long time, I think. And I have to think at some point with the way, the NFL works, they're going to be able to field a competent defense around him that'll get them there, and he'll eventually get a ring, maybe, hopefully, probably. And his level of play in the playoffs is just incredible. 33 touchdowns to 6 picks. Lamar is like 11-9 or something. It's not even close.
I just think that when you go 20 years and you look back at this era, you're probably going to see. I think that at some point in their careers, I don't know, I'm forgetting to talk about Joe Burrow. I think at some point in their careers, all these guys, you can make an argument, are going to get a chance at a ring. I think I really can't tell which one is closer to getting it.
I think
I think the answer is Josh. Easily is closest to getting the ring.
yeah, I mean with Lamar, we've seen incredible rosters around him these last 2 years. Didn't have a good game in the championship, put up 10 points. Sure, you could say Zay Flowers fumble or whatever. And then he couldn't get past Josh Allen and a clearly worse Buffalo Bills team this year. So I don't know what the argument is with Lamar.
I think if you get a lot of MVPs, that's certainly good for your resume and your legacy. And especially if those other guys can't win a ring, then I think it just enhances the fact that my point is Lamar has more paths to a greater legacy than Josh Allen or Joe Burrow.
I'm just saying, I think we remember championships. I mean, John Elway, I think, only won 1 or 2 Super Bowls in his lifetime. It's 2 Super Bowls, but at the end of his career, basically.
I think Josh is on an Elway path in his career, honestly.
Yeah, and I think that was always the comp, honestly. I mean, those two, they're similar play style.
Better passer.
I think the thing is with Lamar is I think he's honestly gonna be like a Dan Marino type figure where he's never gonna reach the Super Bowl, but he's gonna be remembered as this guy who just played completely different to everyone else in his era. And he'll be remembered for that, sure, but I think you talk about the greats, people talk about Elway before they talk about Marino, and I think it's gonna be the same here. Tree?
Yeah.
I wouldn't count out Burrow though. I think Burrow could get a couple
I was actually about to hop on that. I actually think it's Joe Burrow. I genuinely think he's probably the most poised out of like all three of them. I think he's great under pressure. And yeah, I don't think Joe Burrow has seen a well-rounded roster than like the other two quarterbacks have. Like there's not enough, I feel like, talent around this man to really like, see his ceiling. Like we saw it at LSU. I feel like Joe Burrow, like when he's surrounded by a great roster, it's amazing. Like this is like, we're talking about how we can see like Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen on the Eagles and how like, oh, they would reach a Super Bowl. Like I think Joe Burrow in that kind of system too would be great. But I don't think he's surrounded by a great head coach. I don't think he's surrounded by good ownership, a good general manager, and a roster around him. So I'm going to actually give it to Joe Burrow just because I feel like either one, he'll just win a Super Bowl on his own with the Bengals, or two, he'll just leave the Bengals and win a ring on his own. Either way, I think it's Joe Burrow.
I think Burrow's. I think my take is I think for those exact reasons, Burrow's not going to get a ring with the Bengals. I think he definitely. I am like almost 90% sure he's going to get a ring with another
He's probably
team.
going to leave Cincinnati, right? Like he doesn't even seem to love the city or community.
I think he has such a big voice in the room, though. I think he'll be there at least.
You see like Josh Allen talk about how much he loves Buffalo and he wants more than anything to win the ring for
it's Cincinnati.
But he's an Ohio kid. He's an Ohio kid.
Yeah.
But you could tell he just doesn't like the organization that much.
Yeah. I mean, it's on enough.
No, you
can't. Cincinnati, man.
We talked a lot about MVP this year. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they were circled around. But, a lot of people were talking about how Saquon Barkley, carried these Eagles. At this point, what does a non-QB MVP need to do to win the award? We've seen Cooper Kupp put up a crowd.
Somehow
We've seen non-quarterback MVPs in the past before. But in this era, what does a defense. I mean, we don't even need to talk about defensive players. I don't think defensive players will ever win the MVP at this point. But what does like a wide receiver or a running back need to do to truly win the MVP?
It's going to take something like truly historical.
I think defenses are going to need to change completely, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to need a running back to put up like 2,500 plus yards, like 25 touchdowns or something. You need a wide receiver to have like 160 catches for like 2,700 yards and 20 plus touchdowns, like something absolutely insane where it can't be denied. Because at this point, I mean, the quarterback is just way too valuable. It's always going to go to the quarterback. Like, I don't think you could even make the argument this year that Saquon deserved it because there's just so many different factors that contributed to him having that incredible year that would take him out of that conversation.
I think it's almost because MVP is a media-driven thing. I think this is almost driven by the NFL has become such a media cycle type thing where it's easily the most popular sport in America at this point, where the quarterback just becomes this like celebrity status figure that is just viewed as completely different. It's almost how we view like LeBron and Steph and all these guys. You view the quarterback as those point man
Speaking
figures.
of LeBron, he's debuting with Luka Doncic right now.
Yeah.
Should we get a live play-by-play?
But I think that's why the quarterback will always win it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just it would require the weirdest year where I think the really great teams follow a Eagles-like year where their quarterback isn't the focal point, and all the good teams have to follow that pattern. But even then, Lamar Jackson won last year, and it should have been McCaffrey. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Tree?
Why did Lamar win last
Yeah, I honestly never thought any like non-quarterback, players that were going to win the award. To be honest, I just want to throw that question out there. But to end the episode,
Shit.
Well, but we still have not the end.
we still have time. If you were to choose, last question, an under the radar type quarterback who would win a ring in the next 3 years, who would you choose?
That's a good question.
I'm going through all the quarterbacks in my head.
Let me pull up teams. Let me think about it.
I'm going to say, I mean, what do we count as under the radar? Probably someone who's never like reached the championship game before, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I don't think Jaden Daniels is under the radar by any means.
Yeah.
Or like
I don't know if this counts. I'm gonna say CJ Stroud. I feel like he's gone back under the radar this year after being very much above the radar earlier. I think it was a regression for sure. I think they got rid of the OC, getting someone in you. I think that'll help. Getting your weapons back is big too. Nico Collins was injured a lot. Tank Dell was hurt at the end of the year. Stephon Diggs was also hurt. I think the bigger thing though is this defense. This Texans defense is legit. Guys like Derek Stingley, Will Anderson continue to take steps. I think this defense is going to be huge. I think the offense will regain their footing. And with both of those things in play, I think you can see how they can eke it out of the AFC.
I'm gonna go with why did I just forget who? Oh, I know who I'm going with. JJ McCarthy.
Oh boy.
I think I trust Kevin. I know you're gonna love this, Shreya. I trust Kevin O'Connell. This roster is great. Brian Flores seems like he's here to stay. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and the general manager and Kevin O'Connell seem to have a great relationship. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league. They seem to put out a great offensive line. Darisaw, one of the best tackles, will be coming back from injury. Great defense. JJ's a proven winner. He won a national championship. I think he's going to be quite good in the system. I think he fits right in there. And wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings make it to a Super Bowl with him in the next couple of years.
Give me the Southpaw, Michael Penix Jr.
I
love that guy. I love him so much.
He's a dog.
He's got a rocket, great quick release, can read a defense. And I think the Falcons just have a great offense around them, great offensive line. Bijan's going to continue to develop. He's got a connection with Drake London. He doesn't
just love Drake London for some reason, Kamil.
You're going to see.
What about Raheem Morris, though?
Yeah, Raheem Morris has got to hold this team back.
Raheem Morris, like, he had some issues this year as a first-year head coach, but I thought for the most part he was fine. No,
I thought it was pretty bad, man.
I don't know. Like,
this was a good roster. It should have made the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. The defense was pretty talentless,
and he's a defensive
kind of
coordinator. He's a defensive guy.
Also had AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates.
Yeah, but if you watch the Falcons throughout the year, the issue was they just didn't get pressure. All they had on line was Judon, and Judon isn't that great at this stage in his career. I think give them another shot. Let them get some guys. Give Morris another year. I think as a whole, the team was pretty competitive. It was fine as a first year for a head coach, and even if that doesn't work, I still love the offense so much that they could probably get another head coach around and that would make it work. Give me Michael Penix Jr.
That's true.
I'm going to stick in the NFC North. I'm going to go with Caleb Williams. I think this Chicago Bears, this organization is just going to change for the better with Ben Johnson coming down. I think he's assembled, I don't want to say a weird roster, but a roster that I don't think we've ever, like people that have just never been in positions of just like this coordinator status. I think Caleb Williams has proven himself in college. He's had flashes this year. And that roster, that defense is underrated. And they have, Roma Dunze, they have DJ Moore. I think that Chicago Bears team is just on the up right now, and you could maybe see them making a splash sooner than later.
All right. before we close off and do our, on the turf series finale stuff, do you want to ask? We've asked this every single year.
Yeah, gotta do it.
MVP and Super Bowl teams, Super Bowl picks.
Oh,
Anyone want to go first? Camille, you want to go first?
sure. Uh, MVP. I'll take Joe Burrow. Why
Okay.
not? He's probably going to get one at some point, right? He's played incredible the last few years. Maybe the defense will be a little better next year, and that should be enough for them with how he plays. And he's going to be hungry to get back to the playoffs. We'll probably see him give it his all next year. Um, Super Bowl. I'm gonna go Bills Eagles. I think the Eagles make it back. I think the Bills make a splash. Maybe get Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, improve that front four. Maybe have a good draft, and they finally have like a somewhat competent, top 10 defense in the playoffs. Get another pass catcher, let the young guys develop. Josh Allen continues to be Josh Allen. Another year with Joe Brady in that offense. He gets a little more maturity, can coach a better game in the playoffs. I'll take them too. And yeah, give me the Bills winning it. Josh.
Camille, have you considered that maybe once you stop picking the Bills will do good?
No, it doesn't matter. Like
That's just a thought.
we're cursed. Like I'm sure every Bills fan has tried everything throughout history to try to get us win a ring, and it's not on me, guys. Just win the fucking thing. Come on.
Just win the thing.
Yeah.
I can go next.
Yeah.
I'm gonna agree MVP take. I think Burrow.
Mhm.
I think it just makes too much sense. I think, like you said, he's gonna be hungry. He had an MVP case this year. Bring Chase back, might bring Higgins back as well. I think these guys are gonna be offensively just on fire. I think they found what they need to do. Super Bowl pick. I picked the Bengals the past couple years. I'm not going to do that again. This organization's cooked. From the AFC, I'm going to take the Bills. I think the Chiefs are going to regress a little bit. I think the Bills have shown at this point they are who they are. They can beat everyone except the Chiefs. I think next year, by God, somehow they avoid the draw with the Chiefs. They can beat every other team in this conference. We know that to be true, and I think they will. I think they get to the Super Bowl from the AFC. From the NFC, I'm going to take the San Francisco 49ers. I think they're coming back. I think Kyle Shanahan, we know who he is. We know, Brock Purdy got a little too much slander this season. Didn't have the greatest season, but he's still who he is.
He was good.
They're going to have a lot of guys coming back. A lot of these guys, this might be the last run for them. For Fred Warner, for Trent Williams, Ayuk healthy again with a full off season. Debo might be gone, but Pearsall seemed to be pretty good. McCaffrey should be healthy again. There's a chance in which this team is just too old, but I'm going to say that they have one good season left in them, and I trust everyone in this organization to get it done.
I'll start the NFC. I'll pick the
Oh,
Eagles.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna
Yeah.
pick the Niners to win that Super Bowl.
Okay. Niners over Bills.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, the NFC is just tough to pick, man, because of this lack of talent, or not lack of talent. Sorry, I guess no lack of talented. I think really top tier teams. I think it's tough to pick against the Eagles right now. They got a lot of these guys coming back. A really young, talented defensive line. I think a really young defense in
Secondary as
total.
well, yeah.
Makes it a tough thing to say that they're not going to come back. So I'll pick the Eagles from the NFC. From the AFC, it's my last pick. I got to do it. Give me Baltimore. Give me Lamar MVP too.
You're doing Ravens Eagles again? On this 3 years.
I gotta be right at some point.
You have to see.
Give me
Keep betting on the Ravens.
give me MV3. Lamar wins another one. I think he edges out Joe Burrow because he wins the division instead of Burrow, and he puts up similar stats. So give me MV3. Lamar finally breaks through in the Super Bowl because the Chiefs do regress a bit as a sort of retool. I'll take at the end of the day though, I'll still take the Eagles for a repeat.
No.
I just think that this team is far too talented right now. With this defensive line and this offensive line, the trenches are too good.
It's got a fun picture.
Yeah, come on, you've never disappointed.
Yeah, you never.
Yeah.
Jags, come on.
No, I'm
the Texans again.
I'm gonna go with the Texans actually for my AFC. I actually think they're a great pick. They had a top 5 defense going in into the latter half of the season. I feel like we all forget that the offense was just completely riddled with injuries. And CJ Stroud, yeah, he's slowing from his sophomore season, but we saw him in his rookie season. He was great. I think this Texans offense, this whole roster is very well rounded. I think they have a great head coach. From the NFC, give me the Commanders. I think they have so much cap space. There's so much to work with. Jaden Daniels did not even have – I don't even think he had a great rookie season. I hope he doesn't have a sophomore slump. But, that roster can get so much better with $89 million in cap space. They can probably make some huge moves in free agency. And I'm not. This is not to say that the Eagles won't make it. I think the Eagles are great. I think they'll probably like run it back with the same roster, but they're losing Kellen Moore in the offseason. And I think honestly, the Washington coordinators and the head coaches are all coming back. So give me the Commanders and the Texans. And for the MVP, I'll actually go with Josh Allen running it back again. I think he'll have a great time, and I think he'll lose the AFC Championship once again.
Who wins that Super Bowl? That's a fun Super Bowl, by the way.
I'm actually going to
really
go to
like
the Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels takes it.
Oh man, I would love to see that.
Yeah. All right, guys, we've reached that point of the episode where it is time for us to say goodbye. Look, I before we do that, I think we've had a lot of great memories over the past 3.5 years, almost 4 years, doing this podcast. I mean, this podcast started in the dorm room back in Harbin Hall for me. In freshman year, October freshman year, still finding my place here at Georgetown, and called up Sheree on a whim to see if he wanted to start a podcast, and that podcast really grew into something really special. So Sheree, we started this podcast together. Any memories you want to share from those first couple weeks of doing it? I remember we had so many audio issues to start that year.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think we started out. I think we used like 4 different softwares when we like finally figured out like which one was actually work for us the best. I think we tried like Audacity, OBS, and then we made the pivot from like audio to like video on YouTube.
Yeah,
I mean, there were a lot of challenges like here and there. But I'm glad. Like I know, like for me, it was never about like like I want to make this like a big thing, or like it would have been great if like we would have been like some famous podcast. But it was always happy to like sit down with you guys like every week and keep in touch, just talk about something that we all enjoy watching. And we all had fun. I feel like we don't just talk about like the NFL. We like make fun of each other on the podcast for like our outrageous takes, or like there's sometimes on Instagram. But like Rohan's obsession with like the Cardinals and Kyler Murray, and about how he was taller than him, plugging in that he was 6 foot, and like here and there were like things that we all just had so much fun about. And I started this podcast when I was in high school. I think it was in junior year, and now I'm almost going to junior year in college, and it's almost been a fun 4 years. So I'm glad. But this podcast was great. Me and Arjun, we did debate in high school together, and we became friends.
I mean, I've known Sheree since we did science bowl together.
We actually did taekwondo together.
Taekwondo together as well. Back
in taekwondo.
Yeah, we did in middle school together. I remember.
Did you get?
I did. Yeah, awesome. I remember Sheree and I used to spar in taekwondo back in the day.
That was not fun.
Easily.
Did he win actually, Sheree?
Yeah, he kind of destroyed me at the time.
Oh, okay. You were a kid. It's okay.
Yeah, I was a little kid. Yeah.
No, but I mean, starting this podcast with Sheree, I mean, I remember how it started. I think we told the story before.
I think it was fantasy. Like we were in a fantasy.
We were in a fantasy group chat. We were talking about football too much. Someone, we were just like, should we start a podcast? It's like the joke, like, guys, should we start a podcast? And that's basically how this happened. And it's really been nothing more than that. But in a much bigger way, it's been a lot more than that. I think it's been a very special experience. I remember second episode we brought on Rohan, who lived across the hall from me.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was like something fun to do. I didn't think I'd get roped into it full time, but I think, same thing as you. I think coming into Georgetown, not having, that set group of people that you have in a new spot, I think that's something that was a very steady, really steady presence in my life, and I think it was really nice to have that. And those first few years were great. I mean, every year has been great, obviously, but I think that really just looking back at it, we had such a great time. It was so fun coming up with new ideas, I think, of stuff to do, things to talk about, coming up with bygones of the past, like fantasy team of the week, our Madden ratings.
Oh, yeah,
we
yeah.
did that. I was looking back at my graphics, all the graphics I've made, and I was like, oh, we did some fun stuff.
Especially, I think that first year we had Draft Story. I remember that, the song we did with Grant.
Yeah. We do mock drafts and all of that.
Yeah.
Putting out a lot of good content. So hopefully people found it interesting, and even if not, I think it was a fun use of my time, and a very worthwhile use of my time being able to talk more about something that I really enjoyed. I think this is one of the first few things that I really can think about where I've like put a lot of time into something that I don't know what the outcome is going to be from it, where I don't know if there is truly something that comes out of it, but that's the point, I think, is that you got to do some things in your life that you just enjoy just because you enjoy it.
Agreed.
And I think I've gotten a lot of enjoyment from this, and I think it's really been a fun journey.
And then Camille, we brought in Camille, I think, early in the second season,
Yeah.
for on guest appearances. Brought him on continually. Whenever one of us was out, we would always just call up Camille. And obviously, last year brought him in full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, to join the show.
I was really honored when you guys brought me onto the show because obviously it's a great collection of guys. Rohan and Arjun, I've known you guys since freshman year. We've been friends. So to be added to this and continue to continue talking football with you guys, just been great. And of course, incredible bonus. I've gotten to know the great Shivatsa Belanconda. What a lad he is. Look at that. Look at that beautiful visage, that wondrous smile. Really lights up a room. And without this podcast, I probably never would have known you.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me too, actually.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned that.
No, I mean, I think that's the special part, right?
Football's got a great way of bringing people together.
It does,
It's this sport, that's pretty barbaric and violent, but it's beautiful and it's transcendent and it connects humans across all spectrums
Oh,
of
wow.
the world. And we could just come together and watch football and play football and talk football. Because why not? It's a great sport and it's something we're all passionate about. It's something we could all speak at length about, and it connects us. It really brings our spirits and our souls together. And so I've been very grateful to have this podcast the last few years. It's always something I look forward to. It's fun, it's awesome, and I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah.
And I think on that note, we should shout out our many, many guests that have
Yes,
come on.
no, I want to shout out every individual
Yeah,
one. I hope I don't forget any. Daniel Zhang,
Yeah.
we had on, Graham Moreland Tellis, who did the song for us. Draft Story came on a couple years. Obviously, Camille,
Corey Madison, AJ Spetner. Those
AJ
are my guys.
Spetner. We had Arav and Shreeman who came on.
Yeah.
Kieran Simkoviak. Who am I forgetting? We had
Adam.
your
We had
friend
Ruel.
Ruel.
Shout out Ruel.
Ruel came on recently. Adam, who came on multiple times.
Oh, your friends,
Rom.
New York.
Rom. We had Lucas come on as well.
Lucas, yeah.
Lucas
Bears
who
guy.
came on. I'm apologizing if I'm missing anyone off the top of my head. But
Trump.
we had Trump come on.
Oh yeah,
President Trump.
Shout
That was a
out,
big
shout
one.
out.
Maybe I
Yikes.
think we contributed to his election, but whatever.
And he did put that out right before the election, and then he won 2 days later.
Sorry guys.
But every guest who's come on, anyone who's checked out our Instagram post, watched a video, watched.
We've got Hojin Choi, man.
No, I shouted
said
out.
Hojin Choi.
Yeah,
Okay, thank
yeah.
God.
Hojin
shout
Choi,
out.
who made our intro music and came
Yeah.
up with the name On the Turf in the first place.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Wow.
yeah,
Big shout out to him.
yeah, and that's why it was really important to have Hoj come on. I think in our third to last episode, but anyone who's been on the podcast, watched the podcast, listened to it on Spotify, watched an Instagram reel, liked the Instagram post, commented on it, any one of that, I think even if this podcast wasn't a Joe Rogan or anything like that, or any of the similar, sports podcasts, I think Rohan brought up a great point. I think we did this truly for the love of the game and the love of the experience. I think it was really special to be able to share this. I think we came in here as people who didn't really know each other that well, especially, I didn't know Rohan that well. Obviously, I knew Shri, but I think we leave as true brothers, and it was a really special experience. And, I don't think I could ever talk about it. I mean, it's been really special to start my freshman year, and now senior year, we've all had a lot of changes, and we've been through a lot and grown a lot. And to be here at the end to close us off in a senior year feels like a really nice bookend to the whole thing. And so more than anything, I want to thank all three of you. I think this podcast, starting with Shri, Shri, the fact that you were game for doing a podcast in the first place, to do this just on a whim. I remember it was like a Thursday night. I was, still making my way through college, had the idea, but the fact that you were game for it immediately was really special. And the fact that you've been through it, and we've seen you grow so much as someone who's 2 years younger than us, like a little brother.
It's been amazing, man.
It's been amazing. And, Rohan, Kamil, obviously, you guys know how much I cherish and love you guys. And, it's been special to really grow along with you guys in this whole experience. And
It really has. Should have brought a shot, man.
We should
on the turf.
For on the turf, and it may be time now to get off the turf. I want to give the floor to everyone to give one final message, though. Kamil, starting with you.
Shoot. Go Bills. I love Josh Allen.
It's very fitting.
One last time.
Yeah.
I would say go Cardinals, but what difference does it make?
Red Sea rise.
Rise up, Red Sea. No, I mean, yeah, I think what you said. I mean, thank you to you three, first of all. Thank you to Arjun and Tree for coming with me to the idea to join up on this. Thank you to everyone that's listened. Um, and yeah, I mean, I hope that we're going to keep watching football, keep talking about football. I'm sure you'll hear a little bit from us in the future, maybe much farther down the road, but it's been a good 4 year run, and I'm gonna miss it, but I'm gonna also, I think, look back at it very fondly and look back at it with as a really critical part of what I did in college. I'm really gonna miss this.
True.
Yeah. I remember junior year when I was telling my friends in high school, like, hey, like I started a football podcast with my friends, and everyone was like so supportive about it. And like a lot of people in the beginning, they were like, oh, he's probably gonna quit like after like a couple months. And like honestly, like I had no idea how long I was gonna do it either. But like I think like one thing that like I feel like a lot of my friends like from high school just know is just like if they think about like if they think about me, they'll be like, oh yeah, he's into football. He actually has a podcast about it. And like I feel like that's how much this like podcast has like followed me. Like at least between me and my friends as well. Like anytime like we're talking about football, they'll be like, "Hey, Shri, like what's going on?" or like something like that. And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, are you and Arjun still doing that podcast?" By the way, and they like ask that whenever I like meet up with my friends. And it's been a fun ride. Shout out to all my high school friends who've been supportive about it. To my college friends, they still listen in on the podcast sometimes too. They're all Eagles fans, so they were all very upset with how all of us predicted the Chiefs. But no, it was so cool. Yeah. I was so happy meeting Rohan. I actually came to Georgetown once because I had a debate tournament in DC, and then I saw Rohan for that 1 weekend. I've yet to meet Kamil in person, but we will meet Kamil.
The invite is open.
Come on,
Trey.
man. You gotta make it out here.
I met you once at the front gates, right?
Yes, he was there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I said hi to you, but I think before I was on the show.
That's
Okay.
like that's a crazy paths
Yeah.
crossing, man.
Actually, was that in front of was it the Christmas tree
Yeah.
lighting?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably
yeah,
right
yeah.
before you left. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I did. So I didn't meet him. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't. That's a live moment. We actually that was
Yeah,
not
that's
scripted.
crazy.
Yeah.
But no, it's been special, man. Thank you to Arjun. Seriously, like, I mean, I don't think any of this podcast would have surfaced if it wasn't for your dedication. Like, editing those episodes probably a nightmare for you.
No,
So,
I
like,
mean, I think what kept me going the past 4 years was doing this, coming here, wherever we were doing it, every single week. It was such a special experience. And, sure, I think you bring up a great point. Like, the fact that we're able to talk about this to everyone is so cool. Like, I brought this up at every single internship I've had over the past 3 years. It's been my immediate fun fact. It kills every time. I still have people coming to me from like a couple internships ago for football tips because I have a podcast about it. And things like that, and being able to talk to people about football, and even if we've never been on the turf, none of us have ever played football before. That's always been the intro.
Man, I played flag football in like 6th grade.
I play
I was
flag
hooping.
football, and I'm dirty.
But
Nobody on the show can cover me.
But the fact is, I think there's been a lot of entertainment value in just us as regular people
Just
talking about the game, and we're just like every single one of you who listen, and I think that's been very special. So, I usually end these episodes with saying, check out our Instagram for power rankings, for picks, all of that. Probably won't be doing that, but
Madden tournament.
maybe.
Madden.
But please check out our Instagram. We will have a thank you post coming out to really end off these past 4 years. And please don't unsubscribe. Please don't unfollow. This won't be the last you're hearing from us, I'm sure. While this may be the official end of the show, this is not goodbye. It's see you later.
Every show has its reunion.
Until next time. Yeah, you gotta capitalize on the nostalgia at some point.
There's no originality in Hollywood anymore. They'll run us back.
But yeah, I feel I'm just delaying this episode.
Should we sign off for the last time, Arjun?
Yes. My name is Arjun Ryan.
I'm Shriba Mkanda.
I'm Kamil. I'm Danny.
And I'm Rohan Patel.
And until next time, this has been On the Turf.